In this video, we are going to be ranking every single Championship club's transfer window. And I thought, why do it alone? Let's bring in our good friend Tom. We are sticking every single Championship club into a tier list.
Should we get started?
Should we go? First and foremost, you can see the tier list on the screen now. Tom, we can alternate tiers. You came up with a bottom tier. I think you're pretty pleased with it. Nobody wants to be in this tier. But Tom, what is the worst case scenario?
It's lovely to be back on the channel in person. We were coming up for jams. We thought, why not? Let's do this. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff for more tier list videos, which you didn't mention, which I'm surprised. You should ask people to like and subscribe more. You don't do that enough. The bottom tier is Bring On January, which is basically reserved for the clubs that have had very forgettable windows, and there are going to be a few clubs in this tier. I think is where no one wants to be. It's not personal against your club if we put you in this tier. We're very sorry, but yeah, it's just for the clubs that have had a severe lack of business or not recruited where they've needed to, or just not done enough at this stage.
We've then got it open, but we should say as well, this is all in context. Yeah. To the football club itself.
Got nothing to do with the start of the season, or maybe a little bit to do with the start of the season, but not much.
And not anything to do with money spent with budgeting and the difference
relative to the club it's at.
Yeah, exactly. It opened, which is one above our Bring On January tier. It opened. It opened. Did it open effectively? Did it open well? I don't know. It opened. Decent additions. Middle tier is average. I'd say it's good/average. We'll take it. That type of thing. Yep. Above that, proper business.
Proper business. Another chapel edition, by the way.
Proper business. There will be teams that have done proper business. And Tom, there shall only be one winner, but there is a window winner. And we should say as well, we might put a few teams in the window winner tier as we go along. Yep. They will be window winner contenders. And come the end of the video, we will have our window winner. Just one team shall win the window.
Grew into the window. Maktar Gay's already 3 assists up on the season. Andreas Wyman, awesome goal in the derby, by the way. Loved that. 2 goals to his name. Todd Cantwell arrived from Rangers, which I think went a bit under the radar, that one.
Late on.
I'm going to take that a little bit and say Sammy Schmolik, Sam Gallagher. Big money moves, of course, but you're always weighing up how they reinvest that. Did they reinvest it to the extent of which it's going to put them in proper business? I don't know. I'm thinking decent additions for Blackburn Rovers.
I'd agree with you. We're going to go with a middle tier for Blackburn Rovers. I think it could have been much worse if we were doing this at the start of the window.
Massively.
It could have been pretty low for Blackburn. I think they would have taken middle tier. Blackburn Rovers, the first team in the middle tier, also known as decent additions. Bristol City. I like their business. I do like their business. I think they like their business as well. I think it's important to mention we'll be factoring in players leaving as well as coming in. We're not just looking at the names that have arrived, players that have left, and how that will affect the squad going forward. I know we weren't going to talk about the players on the pitch too much because we are still early on, but if you look at the additions, I think Malulu looks to be a really exciting striker for Bristol City, looks to be a bit of a presence, a physical presence, but also technically gifted as well. Sinclair Armstrong was a strange one in the fact that I didn't quite know how he was going to fit in stylistically. I think with that pace, that power, it gives them another dynamic in that forward line. We're seeing that already. Luke McNally, Oxford fans know enough about. They've got a back three now of Rob Dickie, Luke McNally and Rob Atkinson. A back three at Oxford United. Probably the best centre-backs Oxford United have had, bar Elliot Moore in the last probably 5 or 6 years. It's a good addition and a permanent deal from Burnley as well. Scott Twine is a fan favourite at Bristol City. He's only been there on loan once, but already you feel like he's been at Bristol City for a long time. He has. Knows, of course, Liam Manning extremely well from their time at MK Dons. Good signing. Of course, Marcus McGuane also joined from Oxford United as well. One significant addition, Tommy Conway, for £5 million. However, I don't think that was a big of a loss as the fee suggests. I don't think he had a future at Bristol City. And after he wasn't going to sign a new contract, the writing was on the wall. I'm going to say it's proper business. I think it's proper business. Nice. They could be a contender.
Oh, hello.
Well, this is where we come together. Proper business.
It's proper business.
It's proper business.
It's not window winners.
No, they're a contender. Doesn't matter anyway because they're going to get dropped down to proper business. So if we know the outcome, why waste your time? Proper business for Bristol City. I like your signings.
Burnley's so difficult to place. It's a turbulent summer that it's been. It's been a roller coaster. I think those would be good words to use to describe it. Odebear, Sander Berge, Daroshay and Arjun Muric have all bagged themselves Premier League moves this summer, which, again, we don't like sideways moves, do we? That's one of the factors in maybe dropping you down a couple of tiers in this. Then you add Trezor, you add Esteve, Hannibal, Joe Worrell, a few of the names in as well. I think Burnley fans will probably be breathing a bit of a sigh of relief given what the window could have been. There was concern over James Trafford. There was concern it was going to be an even more of a mass exodus than it ended up being. I haven't mentioned every in and out for Burnley because there's been a lot of them. I'm stuck between proper business and decent additions. I don't think they're window winners, but I don't think I'd go as low as it opened or bring on January.
If it was anything before deadline day, they could have been down on bring on January.
It could have been bring on January, but deadline day swung it massively. I think we go decent additions.
Decent addition for Burnley.
Middle of the road because a lot of losses, a lot of incoming, so it puts you average.
Sure. Cardiff City up next. I gave myself Cardiff City, but there's one arrival that I'm sure you'll have a little bit to say about. Let's not go into it. We haven't got the time, he's saying. As he sighs quite dramatically. Cardiff City, what do I think of their business? I think it is good. I think it's okay. Again, there's a lot of if, buts and maybes to the point where I think we need to see how these players are going to fit in, because at the moment, if we are, as we said we were going to do, disregarding the start of the season on the pitch, I wouldn't say that it's all come together.
No.
I like Robertson as an addition. I really do. I think for the fee itself is a good fee.
Did he go to Cardiff, did he?
He did go to Cardiff.
He went to Cardiff, yeah. Right.
I think Will Fish is an interesting centre-back from Manchester United. Again, we'll have to have a look and see how he sort of transfers into professional football. Has spent a lot of time around Manchester United. And of course, though, their youth set up there. Simic is a late one as a striker, a young striker, a decent fee, and one that I think is exciting. The foreign market, we spoke about this in the first jam we did, the use of the foreign market.
In the first jam. That's a good, I like that.
We spoke about the use of the foreign market being clearly more prominent, I think, in this window.
Across the board.
The border, and teams looking to expand that market. Cardiff City are no different. Departures, Mark McGuinness is the big one. He joined, of course, Luton Town for around €11 million. Ebou Adams rejoined Derby County after he was on loan in League One last season. Clearly wasn't in Burt's plans. After some tough negotiating, he rejoined Derby County. As additions go, I think they've signed some good players. Chris Willock on a free transfer is a good signing, if you can find the Chris Willock we saw in the Championship from a few years ago. Callum Chambers on a free transfer also is one that we need to sort of see how it continues to go. It's hard to not take into consideration the way they've started, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go with my gut and say decent additions.
Coventry City, we mentioned Callum O'Hare on the first jam. Like that, first jam. You add Liam Kelly, you add Simon Palmer, you add Simon Moore and Casey Palmer.
Together, that's what they're
just
like.
Merge them. Just get them in there. You add that to the outgoings list. Jack Rodoni, I think, is actually up there for a deal of the window in the Championship overall. That is one I'm big on. That's moved me, that one, massively. Brandon Thomas-Asante is an interesting one. You'll get a different answer from whoever you ask, whoever they support, on the, not validity, because I don't think that's fair, but the extent to which that's a good move or not. We'll leave it there. I don't know whether the Jack Rodoni move enough is to put them into proper business. If it's without Jack Rodoni, I'm thinking more middle of the road. But proper business, you need a lot of really good ones, don't you?
Their squad, though, was, I think they didn't need to.
So if we're talking relative to the club it's at, are we proper business then?
I think we
probably are.
I think we're proper business. They didn't need to do loads, Tom.
No.
They're a good squad anyway.
Coventry City, proper business.
Derby County next, our first new boy of the ranking. That's ranking with an R.
Just for legal reasons, that is ranking with an R.
Derby County, it took a while to get going. It sort of felt they were still, deadline day, I was sort of looking at Derby County fans on social media. It dragged a little bit.
They got a few in.
But they did do it. It took a bit of time, a bit of patience, but they did do it. Lots of free transfers. Wouldn't say they splashed the cash financially with any fees. A decent, around £1 million deal for the goalkeeper. Very attractive goalkeeper, I should say. And that's just his looks, not the way he performs. They did need a goalkeeper. They were searching for a goalkeeper for a very long time. They did get one from, let's not try to pronounce the club. It's Swedish. It's a Swedish club.
Swedish club. That's all we need.
Again, we need to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
They needed a goalkeeper, though, and they did get that. Ebou Adams was a really important one that will go under the radar. We saw
Ebou Adams.
Is it?
Ebou Adams.
Adams. We saw how important he was in League One, so to sort of get that deal done is important. I like Goodman as well, the Dutch midfielder. He looks to be a really quite strong midfield addition for them. Lots of free transfers. Kenny Jackson started well. Osborne's a bit of an emotional addition, but again, a championship quality player. And then you say the late ones. Phillips has come in. Ozza started really well alone from Crystal Palace. And of course, Harness as well. In terms of departures, people won't speak about it, but I think the importance of keeping hold of cash-in is significant. Keeping hold of players.
I see a tweet like lock him in a room for 24 hours on deadline day. That's what they always have to do at Derby County.
Plenty of suitors, I imagine, for someone like Cashin.
Yep.
Their players that left weren't clearly significant. Free transfers. Louis Sibley, of course, joined Oxford United. That seems to be as simple as he didn't sign a new contract, wanted to move on. Are they gutted about that? I'm not entirely sure.
Good
Derby
addition.
County, I think it's decent additions. I think they're still one striker short. Decent additions.
Hull City next, and a Hull City fan who I asked to come on my Asking Championship Fans video gave their window a 5.5 out of 10, which I felt was a little bit harsh, and I know you're going to come in on Hull in a second. You and the viewers know that I can't talk highly enough about Abu Kamara, and Jakey will tell you all about how Carl Rushworth has an awful lot of quality as a goalkeeper too. So those two alone for me are some real eye-catching bits of business. But I think you're going to... I don't know which way you're going to swing with this, but I don't know. Do you feel like the 5.5 is harsh, just briefly?
They had to replace. That's the thing, isn't it? They lost some really key players early.
The loans.
The loans went back.
Involved.
Jacob Greaves has actually looked like it looks like he's set into Premier League football pretty well at Ipswich. And Fidigin as well, yes, hasn't made an impact at Aston Villa yet, hasn't been given a handful of opportunities. But you know that they are very, very good footballers. And in the Championship last season, they were brilliant.
Decent additions.
They've done a lot, though, haven't they? They've done a lot of ins, and I think that maybe the fact that the score that he's given it might be, I could be wrong, but could be a bit of a reflection of the fact that it hasn't all come together yet.
Okay.
You look at a window, I think, you look at the window, I think, at the end of the season, don't you?
Yeah. Or in January, maybe, or as you come up to January. Are we going straight down the middle then? Decent additions?
I think it's decent additions for Hull. Now, next, we have got, it's a big one, Leeds United. Lots to chat about with Leeds.
Where's he going to go with this one, everybody?
Importantly, Joe Rodon rejoined the football club on a permanent deal. Very, very important. We knew his impact on loan from Tottenham last season. So getting that one was important. But of course, we go straight to the departures because replacing them would be really, really important. When Ruta left, Somerville left around the same sort of time. I remember us having a conversation about Leeds. That was a bit of a panic. Ruta's one came quite quickly, out of nowhere when the season had started. The big void there. The creative void of Ruta, the goals and the output is so important. We know how good Somerville is. Archie Gray left quite early on. Still a really, really important departure. Kamara as well played a lot of minutes in midfield last season. They needed to be replaced. Yet to be seen if they are replaced quality for quality, but if you look at how they've recruited, I'm excited. Ayo Tanaka from the Japanese football club, who is Japanese from Germany, looks to be a really exciting midfield option. Jaden Bogle. Yeah. Jaden Bogle started fairly well at right back, I think, as well.
That's a good Archie Gray replacement, by the way.
Yeah, different players, but he's a right back, and he's played at this level before. He's only 23, younger than I thought. Ramazani looks to be one for the future, perhaps, but a good, if you look at the data, he looks to be a really exciting winger. Mm-hmm. I don't think we can expect him to be putting up Somerville numbers straight away, but that isn't the intention. Solomon from Tottenham on a loan. I've heard it's quite an expensive loan deal, but he's a left winger. They needed those bodies in there. It could have been so much worse. I think they've done. I like what they've done. So I'm going to go proper business for Leeds. I've only had the departures, but I think they've recruited as well as they could have done. Perhaps one short, maybe another attacking midfielder short. But Nonto's come in and done a fantastic job, and he stayed. And they could have lost Nonto. They tied him down to a new contract. That has to be given as a positive and a plus for Leeds.
I'm thinking proper business. I think you're right. I don't know. Do we maybe have a little bit of a contender in there? Are they the very top end of proper business?
I think the only reason why they're not a contender is, I don't know, it's not their fault. When you are in the Championship and you've got players like Somerville, Gray and Ruta, keeping hold of them is hard.
And they didn't.
But if you get hold of one of them, maybe that's a different story. Proper business for Leeds. Let me know. Discuss. Argue with us politely.
Luton Town, if I'm right in thinking, the only fees they've spent are on the already mentioned Mark McGuinness and a Spanish lad from a Swedish side. 2 stars of their Premier League last season in Chidozie Ogbene and Ross Barkley also gone. I think this is probably going to be one of the first clubs that goes in one of our slightly negative categories, Jack. I think it opened for Luton would not be unfair.
I think that's
polite.
I think you could have gone harsher. I'm happy because I like Luton, and I like Luton. I mean, I like them as a football club that's normally run well, and I think it is still being run well.
You think they've still got Carlton Morris, there's still Adebayo, there's still quality.
I just think they're a creator away. They could have. They are, the balance of that midfield isn't quite right yet. I know you can't keep hold of Ross Barkley, and you can't get some of that quality in the Championship. They're someone like that away. Shannon Baptiste is sort of that, but he's not that when you've got Clark next to him. I think they won away.
It opened
for Luton. They could have done more for me. Next up, we have got Middlesbrough, which is interesting.
Ooh.
Interesting with Middlesbrough because their squad itself was good. I thought actually going into the window, it wasn't an overhaul that needed to be done. There was a few tweaks that needed to be tweaked, but actually they've done that. I think they've done that to a really good degree. To the players that have left, I think they've let go a few players they wanted to let go on free transfers. No big departures. Latte Laff looked like he could have been on the go right at the end of the window, but keeping hold of him is really important.
Yeah.
Has he been ruthless in front of goals since the start of the season? Perhaps not, but the goals will come, and we know that the opportunities will be there, and he's a guaranteed goal scorer. You don't want to lose that on deadline day. So the players joining, although they didn't need to do loads of work, they have strengthened. My favourite of the bunch is Micah Hamilton. And he, from Man City, on a permanent deal, by the way. He was put forward to me on the transfer video that we did, first video of the Championship season. We did one transfer every Championship club should sign. And he was one that I wanted to put forward as a loan deal for a Championship club. They've gone and got him permanently. He's very, very exciting. He's not one that might hit the ground running straight away. He's 20 years of age, but he's got bags of potential. I like the business on the whole. I think Tommy Conway's an interesting one. It's a fairly high fee, but he's 22, and we saw that there is still development there. And Michael Carrick has got a good record of developing young players. And you look at the age profile of the players that have come in, 22, 20, 22, 25, 27. Ben Doak and George Edmondson, of course, joined in late as well.
Oh, do we have our first contenders?
I think we've got a contender there.
Do we put them in for now and see where we are at the end of proceedings? Oh, this is exciting. Congratulations to the Borough.
Window winner. Contender.
Window winning contenders, and we'll see where we are. So Borough fans, if you're watching, stay tuned right to the end to see where Mr. Jack Ward Football Podcast decides to put you. If I'm right in thinking it's me next and it's Millwall, I am right in thinking that. Josh Coburn arrived on Friday and scored the opener on Saturday. I mean, you talk about a bit of deadline day impact. That one is juicy. We said it felt a bit bizarre with the arrival of Macaulay Langstaff in Jam number one of the season. I think that's come to fruition. I think that was... don't really maybe want to say it, but I think it's a bit of a mistake on Millwall's behalf. I don't think that was the move for him, personally, because of... And maybe the strength of the recruitment drive they've had in that striking department since the arrival of Macaulay Langstaff probably tells you all you need to know there. Maybe I'm being harsh. Maybe he's going to come on and really make a fist of it for Millwall Langstaff, and that's still maybe to come. Don't forget Femi Aziz. 3 million quid on Ivanovic as well. I know Neil Harris was feeling frustrated when they came to Fratton Park during his presses for the Cup game mid to late August. He was feeling frustrated all the way up to the last couple of days. But actually, I think that they will be happy ultimately with the business they've done. It's another case of a club that has really gone for it on deadline day, and I think just about done enough, relative to the club it's at, of course, to get them into... I'm between decent additions and proper business.
I'm just trying to think if they're short.
Or am I more looking at bottom end of decent additions? I don't think it opens harsh.
Yeah, they've done more than it opened.
It opens harsh, so I think we go decent additions.
Yeah, that striker, Ivanovic, big fee, good record from where he's come from.
Decent
good pedigree.
Additions. I'm happy with that.
Additions.
Yep, let's go for that.
They needed that number 9. They got it late on. Norwich City next.
Oh,
this is a tough one. Let's go to the departures first, because that's important to say, I think, because there was controversy with 1, 2, you'd probably say. Losing
More
Jonathan...
than one or two, isn't it? All three of them.
Well, there's actually quite a few until you put them all together. I think it's because they were spread out across the window. Because Sarah was one that they lost quite early on in the window, whereas the others weren't. But £18 million or 18 million euros, I should say, quite a hefty fee for the Championship. And it's quite scary when you are a Pompey and Oxford fan. You see teams collect £18 million for their players. He's a very, very good addition. He's gone to Turkey, to Galatasaray. Disappointing. He probably was their best player on paper. He was an extremely good midfielder for this level. He did leave the club. Ida was on loan at Celtic last season. He's now joined permanently. And of course, Jonathan Rowe and Abu Kamara both handed in transfer requests. I'd say Kamara went about it slightly better, but not much better. Rowe actually refused to play against Oxford United on the opening day. He did force his move to Marseille. If you look at those players that have left the football club, again, I do have... obviously naturally a concern because they are some extremely, extremely strong talents. But keeping hold of all of them was always going to be difficult. The players have, but they have replaced them or tried to replace them in the best possible way. Fortin looks to be a really good addition from Salzburg. The striker, Ante Kranach. That's how I'm going to do it. Kranach. That's what I'm going to say.
Good effort.
He has got an extremely good pedigree from where he's come from. And I think that is always interesting. And the fee itself, 11 million euros. They've clearly targeted him. And you've got to, trust people like Ben Napper, who are now in charge of the sporting side of Norwich City. You look at their business, a lot of it's niche. We've got Cordoba, who's joined, and I think that happened quite early. And I think we all looked at where he's come from and his nationality, and we looked at that and went, I don't quite know where or how. He's a Panama international, and he's come from Levski Sofia, Panama international. Their business has been very niche, but I do like it, and that's clearly the direction they want to go. And of course, Callum Doyle joined, of course, on loan from Man City, and Liverpool. They signed Cade Gordon on loan from Liverpool.
Where are we going?
It's all over the shop with Norwich. Decent additions.
Go on, Em. Yeah, we can go decent additions.
Those departures, you're gambling that those new players come in who were in the unknown, but clearly have they've clearly done their data-driven recruitment style to sort of bring them in and hope they can replace them in the long term, and also hopefully now as well.
My only feeling is when you've got top-tier talents handing in transfer requests, and you use the word disappointing on probably 2 occasions in your little piece there, could you maybe make an argument for it opened? Remember, we're relative to the club it's at. Norwich spending hefty fees on players is not something that they are not averse to. Not something that they are averse to.
I'm going to go decent additions.
You're sick and decent. I can't tempt him.
I just think they've. I trust Ben Napper. I trust the niche recruitment, and they've taken a few
It would be
risks.
harsh to give a Ben Napper window it opened, wouldn't it? So I think you're fair enough with that. Yeah.
You wouldn't spend 11 million quid if you didn't think he was going to be good.
No, this is true. Plymouth, it's a relatively understated window from Plymouth. I think Dan Grimshaw, of course, was one of League One's greatest keepers last season that we'll remember for Blackpool. I don't think he's quite Michael Cooper, but he's an able replacement, Nathaniel Ogbeta and some European ins, and that's about it. So
Plymouth. Morgan Whittaker staying's important.
Yes. So the fact that Morgan Whittaker has stayed is probably stopping me from putting them in Bring on January. But I don't think it's any more than it opened. Think about what a club needs.
And it opened, you can read that in your own way, Plymouth fans.
Think about what a club needs, though. Did they need more? Did they get the striker they wanted? I think did they?
They got Obafemi from...
Yeah. They got the goalkeeper they wanted. That was a worry. I remember at the time when we signed Nicola Schmid, I saw a lot of Plymouth fans go, Pompey, we've got another goalkeeper. Where's ours? I think it opened.
Yeah.
I think it opened, but with a worry that we're going to have any clubs in the bottoms here. Or we're just being really nice to clubs. Congratulations on all your business.
Still some to go. Although I'm looking at them and actually, I don't know.
Probably not.
Oxford United next.
But that maybe reflects how good of a championship window it's been.
Teams have done business.
Teams done business.
A lot of signings and departures. Oxford United up next. 16 additions. busy Oxford United. busy Ed Waldron. That man has been
Look at his smile.
He's been cooking. He has signed a lot of players. We've shown ambition in the window. We have spent money in the window. Spent more money than I think we thought we would spend, and definitely more money than I think other people thought we would spend.
Yeah.
And you look at the profile of the players, it's exciting. Was there work to be done? When we look at it being relative to the club, Oxford did need the additions. And 16 sounds like it's a huge overhaul. It is an overhaul, but not in the way that we lost everyone and replaced the entire squad. You know, we kept the core of the squad and then also added that depth that you so desperately need in the Championship, with the quality being increased across the board. My favourite signings, off the top of my head, I know we've only seen literally 45 minutes of him, but I like the replacement of Josh Murphy and Siriki Dembele. I think that's a really good addition. I look at players like, we knew about him, but I think Jamie Cummings signing permanently looks now on reflection to be a really good free transfer addition. Jack Curry's a weird one. He's gone out on loan to Leyton Orient, but I think long term that's going to be a really good left back option. I think Pacheta looks handy. I think he's an interesting, dynamic option that Norwich didn't get along well with, but Oxford so far looks like he's going to settle into this Oxford United playing style, using the wide players effectively pretty well. He's a very quick man. Will Volks, again, shaky start in different games, but he's a profile that we needed, a proper holding number 6. I'm going to be careful I don't go for everyone. El Mazzuni looks to be a really, really good piece of business. I'm really surprised that El Mazzuni wasn't picked up by somebody else. I think he probably could have been picked up and started for more teams than just Oxford United in the Championship. I think he's that good. Players leaving, obviously there's the one standout. Losing Josh Murphy to Portsmouth on a free transfer.
There you go, Pompey.
He did go Pompey.
Yeah, went to Pompey.
At the time, I was a bit concerned about that, but I think if you look at the players that he brought in to try and not just replace him profile per profile, but you look at what he offered and the players we brought in that I think could offer that and potentially even more. Murphy, of course, the only one that I'm like, I'll say if only we kept him, because it's difficult with the players we've now brought in. So I think we have done. I'm going to put us in, and I don't want to spoil it. I think we're a contender for window winner. I do think we're a contender relative to our football club.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to argue with it. I'm sat in an Oxford United household. I want to get out alive. So
I think we're a contender. Do you not?
Yeah. No, you're very much proper business. You're very much proper business. Okay, we'll go with contender. We'll see where we are at the end, and we'll have a review. I'm actually going to say probably a lot of what you said, but just maybe slightly less exuberant now about the mighty Portsmouth Football Club. A belter of a window is how I would describe it. And I think the only way we could have done better was one of two things. One, the key loans back from last season that we didn't manage to get back, which is fine because the recruitment has led us elsewhere, and that's absolutely cool. And I think we are covered in all but one position on that one. We didn't bring that creative number 10 in that I think we might end up going, ooh.
Anyone in mind? Anyone you were looking at?
That's the thing. I just think that's the only one little bit where I go, ooh, if only that had gone slightly differently. But we did as much as we can. Look at it this way. If Harvey Blair hadn't been injured / not available for loan from Liverpool or whatever the situation was, we would not have brought in Abu Kamara this time last year. We would have gone for Harvey Blair. He was the number one choice and he would have been on loan. We now have Harvey Blair on a permanent deal from Liverpool, which, as a reflection of the window, we've spoken about it being relative to the club it's at. For Portsmouth Football Club, and this is not me happy clapping, to sign a Premier League talent on a permanent basis from a club on a long-term deal, the like of Liverpool, it's business that would have felt light years away. Happy with
the money spent?
Short little while ago. Yes, I think it's a trendy mix of fledgling, untamed talent in terms of Live Championship experience alongside 2 or 3, maybe even 1 or 2 proper veterans at this level to guide us through. I love every bit of it other than a creative number 10, but I think we can deal with that in time. I think we're proper business.
Not a contender?
We're not a contender, but we're for the level that we're at. If we'd got that creative number 10, I think we've won the window. But I think we are proper business for now.
Preston, I think I'm going to now.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, difficult with Preston because you're recruiting for 3 different managers in that one window, which is a bit crazy, isn't it? When has a manager ever had to recruit... when has a club ever had to recruit for 3 different managers in the same window? In the summer as well, which is even more bizarre. Yes. A bulk of this business was done by Ryan Lowe, of course.
Yeah.
Have they done... Well, the biggest departure will be Alan Brown, who joined Sunderland, and to not get a fee for him is going to be a kick in the
proverbial.
Because he's 29, but he's so good, and he's been good for Preston for a very, very long time, and that's what Preston I think have been a bit poor at in recent years, not selling at the right time. Because if you're going to get in, you can't let someone like Adam Brown of his ability run down his contract and go to a championship rival. And so far, Sunderland have done pretty well with Adam Brown as a part of that. Not playing every game, but I think they're very happy with that addition.
I've got a feeling I know where you're going with this one.
However, the players they brought in, I think, again, slightly unknown. They spent quite heavily on Ockels. He's a winger from Denmark or from Holland. He's a Danish player. Again, they've sort of recruited in that market quite a little bit. Sam Greenwood actually impressed me yesterday, to be honest. I thought he was a bit everywhere. I think he was a bit of a nuisance. He clearly has got the ability. He's played in the Championship for a various amount of football clubs over the time, and he looks pretty handy, to be honest. Could have done a bit more, perhaps. Again, Preston we know, and Ryan Lowe was pretty open about it when he was in charge. They haven't got one of the biggest budgets in the league. They've probably got probably a bottom 6 budget, to be honest. And last season, they finished 10th with that budget. I'm not going to go, I'm going to say it opened.
Okay.
That could be slightly harsh. I'm going to go it opened. No, I'm not. I'm going to say it's decent additions. I actually think they've done in what they could have done and what they've recruited. They've lost one player of significance, but they've recruited, I think, players that will improve them. Their squad hasn't got worse. I think it's either stayed the same or...
Well, in that case, you've got to go down the middle. QPR, Kamoko Dembele is a deal of the championship window contender.
He's up there.
Potentially, in my opinion. I heard his brother's not too bad either. He's quite good, yeah. Harrison Ashby is the only arrival, apart from their under-21 graduates, from an English club, and 9 other arrivals from Europe and around the world, which is another example of how it makes it so fun and so unpredictable. But for people like you and me, it's not great because we don't know an awful lot about these players.
Yeah, we're sort of standing here on football transfer market, not even trying to work out what country and even nation they've come from.
So I don't quite know where you put QPR right now, in honesty. It is the one that I was really struggling to just sort of pin down a spot. Because
I like that. I think
they've made arrivals in number. I'll give them that. And I really like Kamoko Dembele.
They've gone down a different route than the last couple of years. Very, very clear shift in the strategy.
Yes.
They've got a new sporting director who I think is in his 20s. He's a very, very young sporting director. And they've clearly gone down the data approach. And you know that sort of cheatingly, the way you work that out is when you look at where they've come from. They've clearly done their work in the scouting of European markets and actually beyond that as well.
Where do we go?
Look at their departures. One, they're probably thinking Sinclair Armstrong.
There's no massive outgoings, so I suppose
they're top end decent. They've done. I think they've done they're lower end proper business. I think.
Okay, let's go lower end proper business. I
like their signings. Again, they've all got to come together, but that isn't our job. Our job is to look at how they've recruited in this summer transfer window.
Proper business. There it is.
Next up, we will go to, this is going to be interesting, Sheffield United. Because we have had multiple conversations about Sheffield United over this summer window.
Without you saying anything further, Sheffield United are my window winners.
That's always good for the retention of the video, isn't it? So, definitely, whatever you do, we might not agree.
They're mine, but we might not come to a conclusion.
No, I know what you're saying. They've done extremely well. And I just think they have...
Read some out. Go on.
That's what the easy thing... Like I say, I don't want to say they are the window winner this early. We've still got clubs to cozy, but you can clearly see they're a contender. They will be a contender for sure. Raksaki on loan. He should have gone out on loan last season. He was wasted at Crystal Palace, not given an opportunity. We saw in League One how good he was for Charlton. Gilchrist was playing regular football for Chelsea under Pochettino last season in the Premier League. Tyrese Campbell in the Championship, he's been around, he's still 24 on a free transfer. Jamie Shackleton didn't really get an opportunity at Leeds United, clearly a talent. Callum O'Hare is someone who at Coventry was really, really good.
He was immense.
Really, really good. On a free transfer as well, that has to be spoken about. With all of this, they were going through a takeover. I don't think it has officially, I know it hasn't officially gone through yet. They recruited a bulk of good players.
You said Kiefer Moore yet?
Kiefer Moore, Harrison Burrows, Michael Cooper, who I think, if he wasn't injured, should be playing in the Premier League.
Stop the count, Jack. I'm afraid they've won it for me. But...
Players leaving. Let's do it. Let's be fair.
Okay.
Cameron Archer. They got a good fee for him,
Yep.
to be honest. They got a good fee for him. Osulu has gone to Newcastle. Trusty's gone to Celtic. Jaden Bogle going to Leeds will be a bit of a blow, but they got money for him. Players that left on a free transfer, a bulk of their experienced players that have been around the blocks for a long time has left, but it looked as though they've gone down a different approach, recruited younger for the long term, because it felt like it was quite stale at Sheffield United. They needed to refresh. They're a contender. Keep watching. Keep bloody watching. Good window.
We're going to go from one side of Sheffield to the other. Wednesday, Max Lowe, Jamal Lowe, Chalabar, Ben Hamer, all on frees. Ike Ikbo's their big summer arrival. You know a lot more about James Beadle than I do, of course, but I do know a lot about Jamal Lowe, and I know how good he can be. And I do know full well, and we weren't going to have reference to the opening month of the Championship in the video. However, I wonder if we'd filmed this video after the Plymouth win, would we have gone, oh my word, Danny Roll's on a new contract, they've brought all these players in, what an amazing window, they're going to absolutely storm it, let's put them right top tier. I wonder if the last couple of weeks in my mind may have tainted it. I don't think there was an awful lot, there wasn't a flurry of business at the end from Wednesday, was there? It was all sort of in and sorted. They might well have had a busy transfer deadline day. I didn't look at it properly, but I don't think they have.
They got their business done early.
Business was done early. I like the retention of Deshaun Bernard as well, and I know we're talking about like relative to the club it's at. Barry Bannon's still there, of course. I think
is their squad better than what it was before the summer? Yes, it is.
So therefore, do we go either middle of the road or proper business?
I'm not going to get bogged down by the fact that their start hasn't been as good as it could have been.
Outgoings wise, it's not horrendous either.
It's proper business for me.
It's proper business.
Stoke City, I think for a long time Stoke have almost gone into a window and been like, oh my God, we're here again. We're going to do the same thing and end the season in the same position since they got relegated from the Premier League. I think it's been a bit stagnant and the business has been quite stale. They've gone for older players and it hasn't worked out. They've gone down a different route. Loan market has been used, I think, far more effectively when it comes to Premier League clubs. Ashley Phillips has joined on loan from Tottenham. Moran's joined on loan from Brighton. I think Tom Cannon is one that really stands out for me as a striker from Leicester City on loan. They had to wait a while to get that one done. There's a lot of teams interested in Tom Cannon. Clearly, he's a target and was a target for an abundance of Championship clubs. We know Boston Llewellyn from his time at Fleetwood got better as that League One season went on. He can play centre-back, much better in midfield. He's a physical presence. He can drive. And on a permanent basis at 21 years of age, I think it's a really good long-term addition that Stoke have been lacking in previous windows. Their goalkeeper is so important. Johansson, who joined on a £1 million fee from Rotherham or €1 million fee from Rotherham. Rotherham, not many positives in the Championship last season. The one positive was their goalkeeper, Johansson, and it could have been far worse if it wasn't for him. The highest XG prevented in the Championship last season.
Why is that still in your head?
Because I remember when it got announced right at the start. So good goalkeeping addition. One departure.
They've slimmed it down, haven't they, Stoke? They used to be like multiple arrivals.
They were 35 years of age.
Absolutely no point in them being there because that's harsh, but just strange recruitment. It looks like it's more strategy-led.
Can we look at the long term? Can we look at building a squad over time and not having to get rid of a lot of players that are of a decent age for little fees because they're not worth anything? You've got investments now, you've got assets. Departures, I'm not against any of them really. I don't think they're gutted about any of them. I could be wrong, but I'm looking at the names there. I don't think there's any that really stand out. So Stoke, much better than usual. I think it's proper business for Stoke.
Team I saw play yesterday, Sunderland. Paveda did really well when he came on. Chris Mepham, of course, big transfer deadline day deal for them, of course, on loan from Bournemouth. The only taint is the Jack Clark departure, and I said it to you earlier on, the small sample size we have in the post-Jack Clark era is that they're not doing too badly. So, and I know it's difficult to judge that.
The placement was in the door already in Mundle.
Yeah,
already
exactly. Let's get ready to Mundle. So they aren't doing too bad for the job that Jack Clark was providing, and he's obviously, it's not a sideways move. Jack Clark is not going to come up against Sunderland this season. He's off to the Premier League, and I think he got his debut yesterday, I believe. So straight in as a window, make that very clear. As a window, it doesn't knock your socks off, but as a squad and a team right now, they look extremely hard to argue against. So the tinkering of additions where it's needed And we're talking about relative to the club it's at, aren't we? So I think straight down the middle for Sunderland.
Yeah, I think they probably wanted another striker. But would that have affected the development of Mienda? It might have done. If you bring another body in, was Mienda going to get shifted out? And we've seen how good he is. He looks like a player that wants to play every single minute and can play every minute to a top level ability.
He was outrageous yesterday.
I am happy for you to go down the middle. I think, remember, we're looking at the window itself. Decent additions.
Sunderland fans will know how much they wanted a striker and didn't get one.
It could be a proper business, but I'm happy to go decent additions because we've got a lot of teams in. We've got quite a few teams in all the tiers, other than the bottom tier, actually. Let's go to Swansea City because I went pretty big on Swansea in my predictions, and that was a lot of that. Down to the fact I think they've done some really good pieces of business, and I'm going to continue by saying I think they've done some really good pieces of business come the end of the window. They've used the VAR market. They've used the English market. They've signed some really, really exciting players. They've gone and broke the record for the most names of players with horrible names to pronounce.
Good job you've got this one.
So I'm really glad I've done that. Cheers, that Swansea. I'm trying to give you compliments here, but you're really making it difficult for me.
Go on, give a few a go.
Let's give this a really good go. Franco looks to be a really exciting midfielder who's joined from the Portuguese league. He's also Portuguese himself. Spent quite early on that deal and spent around 2.1 million euros. Again, we're looking at a player that has already settled in quite well and looks to be that midfield option next to Grimes. They've been looking for a little while. That looks to be a good one. Ji Sung from the South Korean league. That's that's niche. Very, very niche.
Similar to QPR niche.
But again, someone who's 22 years of age. They spent a fairly decent fee on him, but they clearly have done their homework on him. And again, we're talking
he's racking up numbers in South Korea.
And we're looking at players there that have got salon value and have got an asset that they can now keep hold of, develop themselves, and then also have a really good season. Miles Harris, you know a little bit about. Of course, he was at Pompey. I know what you're going to say on that. I think it'd be interesting to see now if he got a full season and if he can knock down a regular spot when a team...
I liked him. I liked him a lot. I just think he... How do I say this? I don't want to come across as really horrible. If he'd performed like he did against Port Vale for the entirety of his Pompey career, we would have probably moved heaven and earth to get him back for another loan deal or get him back on an opponent basis. I didn't see completely what he can offer post Port Vale. I don't think we saw enough of it. So I'd like Swansea to get what we saw Mars Harris burst onto the Pompey scene with, and I hope they get that.
I think generally that their business has been strong. The average age of their arrival was 23.9, clearly looking to decrease that average age of the squad. Luke Williams is the top manager. He wants to play good football, and they sign players that fit that profile. Departure-wise, Nathan Woods joined Southampton. I think it's the only one where it's been a fairly big fee that's left the club. I'm looking at the other departures there. Not any that stand out and look to be a concern. I think Swansea are proper business. I think they've done some good signings. I like the additions. They've been niche, but they've been effective, and they already... I know we shouldn't be taking into consideration too much, but they are making an impact and fit the style of play to a T.
Final club for me, Watford. I'm not massive on the recruitment, and actually it was a conversation that we had before I came up to you this weekend, was that we're not going to let Watford start to the season sort of taint what we've seen in terms of a transfer window. Yes, it's been a brilliant start, but has it been the window they were after? I'm amazed at this early stage how it doesn't correlate with their league position. I don't quite know how that's happened. Watford fans can probably tell us a little bit more. One thing I will say is Daniel Jebison is one they should be really pleased with. I'm expecting him to impress this season, and he will have the potential of that number 9 spot will be pretty much all his. I know we were interested. I know there are other clubs interested. He would have maybe been a little bit down the pecking order in terms of being that out-and-out number 9 at a club like Pompey, whereas Watford are crying out for a goal scorer or more goal scorers. But as you said earlier on to me, that their XG has been pretty good so far. So to be able to add a complement of a striker in there will be really positive. Take it as a window. I'm either decent additions or it opened.
It could have been so much worse, couldn't it?
Yes, it could have been. So, do we go decent additions?
Let's do decent additions.
Because I don't want to be as harsh to go it opened. Without Daniel Jebison, it might well have been it opened.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's as major of a sort of incoming as it might be. I don't think there's a lot of money at Watford right now.
No, they've got an owner there that isn't very interested.
Yes, and I remember a Watford fan who I spoke to for the Championship video at the start of the season with all the predictions in that said that Watford have no money, and I think they have maybe done, and I mean this in no disrespect to Watford, as well as they could have done given the circumstances and the pot they had to play with. So we'll go with decent additions for Watford. Your final club, I believe, will be West Brom.
West Brom, what do I think of their window? I think it's good. Again, they're in a position where they weren't able to spend loads and loads of money, but they had to be effective in the way that they recruited, quite strategic, and had to be quite clever. And I actually think when you look at what they have done and the outcome of the window, their squad is stronger. I think their 11 was strong anyway going into it. It was about adding depth, adding the additions to, like I say, pack out that squad and give Carlos Corberán options for the entire season. Mm-hmm. And actually, when you look at it, we look at the departures first and foremost, and the first one that stands out is probably Thomas Asante, who's joined Coventry. I say stand out, it's the biggest fee there. Again, I don't remember, I could be wrong, but I don't remember them being gutted.
They weren't heartbroken at the time, no.
And I think that's always telling. Not to say that he's not a good signing for Coventry, but it's one where they have options in the attacking areas, and if you can sort of recoup £2.5 million for somebody, that's not bad. Yeah. Connor Townsend joined Ipswich. Yokosulu joined the Turkish club that he, I believe, didn't join from originally. That's wrong, but did go to his native country, Turkey, on a permanent basis, which I think is a shame because of how long he's been there for. He's stuck through the bad or the worst times of West Brom in their recent history, sort of in their recent relegations to the Championship, and where they have been for the last couple of years. And he's been good for a large chunk of that, very good. I think last season maybe his legs are starting to go a little bit and playing as a midfielder on his own with maybe a lack of help around him, maybe exposed him slightly. And to get at the age of what is he, 31, and get over £1 million for him.
Not bad going.
I think it's pretty good. And they have reinvested that. I think Mikey Johnston's a really good signing from Celtic, clearly highly rated. They spent a pretty big fee on him. Callum Styles, I'm not too sure on that. If you ask a Barnsley fan, they won't be too impressed. If he's been on loan for a fair few goals, wouldn't say set the world alight. There's clearly a player in there because he keeps getting opportunities to impress. He needs a new home. He needs to settle down in an environment where he can thrive. He's a good player. I just think he didn't want to be playing in League One with Barnsley, and his loan moves haven't been ideal since then. Devante Cole is a bizarre one, also from Barnsley, but of course released by Barnsley on a free transfer. Not totally sold on that one either. But I think Diakate is a really good signing from Tartberg as well as a midfielder, and I think the general additions themselves. Mason Holgate, by the way, joined on loan on the final few hours of the window. I think Paddy McNair also is a good loan signing and brings experience. Of course, he left Sunderland. He's joined a loan from an MLS side until their season starts in the Christmas period. So West Brom, I think it's decent additions, maybe proper business, but I think I'm going to go decent additions. Their squad was good anyway. They didn't need to do loads and loads of
for
work.
The level that we're talking about, for the club that we're talking about. Decent.
I'm gonna go with that. Right, it's time. It's time to do what?
So I think we didn't have a plan for this, did we? And I think I don't want it to come across as like a school sports day where we're all winners and no one gets put in the bottom tier because everyone's turned up and done well. But it's been a really strong summer window in the Championship, and I think maybe it's a reflection of the clubs that are in there. Maybe it's an example of... Sorry, that domino's making me really belchy. Maybe it's an example of the clubs at the top end of the division looking and trying to seize an opportunity to do really well this year. Maybe it's also a reflection of the clubs coming up into the division, taking a notch up and taking the business. You talked about you didn't think it was an overhaul. We weren't expecting an overhaul at Pompey, yet we've both got 14, 15, 16 additions in at our respective clubs.
It still wasn't enough. They always say it still wasn't enough.
No,
you always do another 5, can't you?
Yeah, it's always 9 out of 10, isn't it? Because you can never have a perfect window.
Sure.
But I think we're going to talk about a club in a second that have had as close as you're going to get to a perfect window. But I think you're with me in the fact that I don't think we're going to have anyone in that basement category.
No.
Just because of the level of the competition in terms of transfers.
Yeah, and I feel sorry for Luton down there because they're on their own in that sort of bottom 2 tiers, even though they're not in the bottom tier, because there's been lots of decent additions, some proper business, and there will only be one window winner. But there's teams that have shown ambition. There's teams that have looked like they started the window terribly and then got going a little bit. The Championship window specifically took a while to get going, I think, for quite a few teams. Everybody has to recruit differently. Everyone has different budgets, and everybody loses key players, and the money they recoup for those players is so different across the board. However, there will only be one window winner. I think we know where we're going to go on this one. However, Oxford and Middlesbrough, I think, deserve to be in that window winner contender tier, but they will be moved down to proper business. Because I think we can be in agreement that Sheffield United are our window winners. I just look at the signings they've made and I go, I don't really see how they haven't strengthened that squad to an unbelievable degree. Now, it's got to come together. But they've got a long-term strategy there with a younger set of additions. They've moved out players that have been there for a long time and replaced them with long-term assets as well. And they use the loan market well.
You've hit the nail on the head there, and I will completely agree with absolutely everything there. And the only thing I will build on is the fact that midway through, I think it's probably maybe late July, early August, maybe even midway through August, I remember messaging you and saying, crikey, Sheffield United, like, wow. It was kind of... So they had the initial Callum O'Hare and Kiefer Moore were very early on, or quite early on in terms of the window. Then all of a sudden, Alfie Gilchrist's name popped up, and they were interested in Raksaki, and then Tyrese Campbell rocked up. And you just the names started to dribble in, and you're thinking that's a really, really exciting addition. Oh, there's another really, really exciting addition that's just come through. So yes, you're right, it has to come together. I think Chris Wilder is brilliantly positioned now to get the best out of those players. I think there's a couple of nice little reunions in there as well of former players that have played with each other in the past. And yeah, I'm excited to see what off the back of this window Sheffield United can do. And I'm absolutely with you. Congratulations, Blades fans. You are the Jack Ward Football Podcast window winners.